Everyone, can I first of all welcome you all along to the Education and Communities Committee. This is the community side of it. This meeting's been held remotely and also in person and will be filmed and recorded for live and subsequent broadcast available through the Council's website. The Council is a data controller under the General Data Protection Regulations and Data Protection Act 2018. We broadcast and record Council meetings to fulfil our public task obligation to enable members of the public to observe the democratic process. Data collected during the process will be retained in accordance with the Council's published policies available through the Council's website. Members of the Council are reminded that you should follow the Council's established meetings code protocols, including around the use of the chat facility, and that comments made in the chat facility are visible to all participants in the meeting, which may include members of the public who have received invites to the meeting. And with that, can I ask Diane to go through declarations of interest and roll call?
We have no apologies for absence for the community business. The education business later this afternoon, we have an apology from volunteering. We now move to the attendance roll call for the seeking to declarations of interest. The following members, please indicate if you are present at the meeting either in person or remotely. Councillor Armstrong.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Brennan.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Doherty.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Daisley.
Present remotely.
Councillor Law.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor McGuire.
Present.
Councillor McLean.
Present chamber.
Councillor Moran.
Present remotely.
Councillor Cringe.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Robertson.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Wilson.
Remotely.
Are there any declarations of interest?
We take Kirsty first, then Tom.
For agenda item 5, I am a registered volunteer for the Watt Museum.
Thanks. Yes, agenda item 8. I'm on the board of IVCSS, but the paper is not for decision making. Thank you.
A wee trail of things for agenda item 8 as well. A couple of things that have just recently come off my register of interest, so I probably still need to mention them, which would be Inverclyde Faith and Through Care and Inverclyde Youth Theatre Chaos, and one that I'm still on the board of, which is Financial Fitness. And I've got a declaration for the private paper in this session as well, but we'll talk about that at that point.
Inverclyde Leisure.
So, okay, association. So, else? There's no.
Councillor McGuire.
Councillor Wilson.
Agenda item number 6, Chair. I'm Vice Chair of Strathclyde Passenger Transport.
Thank you, David. Councillor Daisley.
Thanks, Convener. For agenda item 8, I need to declare a connection to Port Glasgow Boat Club, where I'm a member. But again, as there's no decision required, I don't feel there will be any conflict of interest.
And Natasha.
Yes, thank you. Similarly, item number 8, I was a trustee at the time of that meeting for the George Wiley Foundation. I need to declare interest for Inverclyde Vineyard Church and for Inverclyde Youth for Christ.
Sorry, Natasha, there was an awful lot of noise in the room there. We're just shutting the door. Can you go through that again for us?
Yes, sorry, item 8, I need to declare an interest in several applicants. George Wiley Foundation, at the time of the meeting, I was a trustee. I'm no longer a trustee for there. Inverclyde Vineyard Church, I attend that church regularly on a Sunday and volunteer there. And also Inverclyde Youth for Christ, I am the chairperson for them. And I think that's all my declarations that I need to do. I don't see this precluding me from today's conversations.
Okay, thank you, Natasha. All the declarations are done. Can we move to agenda item number 2, which is a revenue budget report? And can I ask Ian to introduce the report? Ian?
Thanks, Convener. So this is Community Revenue Budget Report, and it's for period 5, which is up to the end of August 23. The community's revenue budget is currently 5.876 million, and the latest projection is an underspend of 218,000, and that's an increase in expenditure of 173,000 since the last committee. And that's mainly due to the increase in costs for Inverclyde Leisure's utility bills. So section 3.3 of the report lists all the main variances responsible for the projected underspend. And it should be noted that 155,000 of the projected underspend relates to the IL utility bills, and that this would be returned to the inflation contingency by the end of the year. So the real projected underspend after that adjustments is 63,000 under. Section 3.4 in Appendix 4, that gives you the details of the earmarked reserves. And year-to-date expenditure is currently 0, and that is as planned. We profiled it to be 0 at this point in the year, at the start of the year. I'm not requesting any environments this cycle, so committee are just asked to note the projected underspend of 218,000 as at period 5 up to end of August, and that will be adjusted down by the 155,000 for the utilities underspend when it's returned to the inflation contingency, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Ian, just for the clarity there, I think you said 63,000, just to confirm that in the paper it says 68,000. It's probably a true figure. Is it 68,000?
It's 68, so I'll misread that, sorry.
No problem. Thanks, Ian. I'll open up to questions. Can't see any questions online, and I can't see any in the room. Can we agree with the recommendation?
Agreed.
Thank you, and thank you, Ian. Can we go on to the capital programme? And can I start off with Hugh first of all, and then we've got Eddie here as well. But Hugh to start.
Okay. Thanks, Catherine, everybody. Thanks, convener. This is an update on the capital project and asset-related issues and communities' element of responsibility. Just to give you an update on where we are, we've got a £3.6 million budget. At the moment, we're projecting to spend 1.376 million in 23-24, and we're not expecting any slippies at the present moment. Just going through some of the projects that's got live at the moment, and obviously Eddie's there for any the mechanical stuff to discuss if you need any relevant information. The Leisure Pool Asset Management, Leisure Pitches Asset Management Plan is continually going on. And we'll continue to do that following the agreement we had at committee on in September 2020, and that's still to continue. The waterfront training pool is now completely finished. I know we've been in the port where we're looking for that, but it's now reopened, so that's great news for that. And also within 3.7, there's a lot of information within that about where we are with the community hub in Port Glasgow. And the delay that we're facing for that project, and that's now expected that due to the main water problems underneath the earth that causing us issues, that we're now expecting that to be delayed until May 2024. But Eddie can give more in detail on that issue. We have also, under the community external projects, we're delighted that Bank Street Community Hub had been progressed to go to stage 2, and we're working away to get that submitted by Friday back to the Scottish Government. And if we are successful within that, we should know early 2024 if that project is to be funded by the Regeneration Capital Fund. 3.9, just a quick update on Partlea Branston Out. Again, the work is now commencing on the site. Very positive meetings with the contractors, and we're working away to have that probably completed now, slightly later than we expected, but probably later on in spring 2024. Under the asset transfer, as you know, the Head of Culture and Communities and Education Resources chairs that meeting. And the number of that is any organisation that we're having discussions with around an asset or an ongoing interest of asset transfers or any other things to do with buildings. And you'll see that within my notes. I'm happy to take any questions on the report.
Thank you, Hugh. Eddie, have you got anything you want to add just at this point?
Thanks, convener. No, I think Hugh's covered it. I think the main one was the waterfront floating floor. It's complete now, and it reopened on Friday. And there's plenty of detail in the report there in the King George project, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Eddie. I'll open up for questions. Elizabeth first. Elizabeth.
Thanks, Kira. I kind of am regretting not wearing a t-shirt I can put over my head and do a lap of honour around it. We've got the floor done and the pool. It's such good news that that's been completed. We've waited for it for a long time and it's amazing stuff. I guess thanks to everybody for making that happen. I know the procurement and everything has been such a difficulty that we've got there, and it's a question that we've asked all the way through the process, is just making sure that the people who previously used that facility are now fully engaged and ready to kind of get back in there and get their feet wet in the pool again. I'm just checking that we've kept those communications up and everybody's ready to go.
Yeah, for yourself, convener. Yeah, Councillor Robson's I've spoken to Inverclyde Leisure on that, and we've got a client meeting tomorrow, and it's on the agenda to make sure that we're utilising the pool that we've invested heavily in, to make sure we get everybody back who's been using it. So it's on the agenda tomorrow, and I'll keep you in the loop of how we're going. We'll give you a report on everybody coming back, probably at a previous, a later committee.
Thanks, Stu. Can I bring in, is that okay?
Yep,
Elizabeth? Yeah. Can I bring in Lynn next?
Yeah, thanks. I've just got a couple of questions under the asset transfer. So obviously we'll know that we have the revised procedure for asset transfer process, and part of that procedure was to have a single point of contact for anyone that wants to pursue an asset transfer. Is that still the case? And if so, can someone let me know who that single point of contact is? And the last point is about the approach from Gourock Community Council about the Gamble Halls. It's just to confirm, obviously I was at the meeting where the Community Council meeting where they were having a discussion around that, and there was questions over whether the Community Council was the right entity to take on an asset transfer. So I was just looking for clarity on community councils and their ability to be the sort of partners in an asset transfer. Thanks.
Hugh, do you want to take that one? Tony?
Sorry, I'm on mute. Sorry.
Oh.
Apologies.
Yeah,
Sorry, having a wee problem here. It's okay, we're fine now. So, sorry, the key asset transfer team now is from our own service. Can we hear you?
We can hear you, Hugh. So the first question is the single point of contact. So you're saying that the single point of contact is you and your team?
Yes. It was one of our officers who's now left, but it is through myself, and that would anything come through that, and that should be on the website.
Okay, I'll bring Tony in. Tony?
Yeah, there is a contact email on the website for asset transfers, because we understand staff and turnover, so we're trying to keep it. If you go through that mailbox, that we'll be able to a note of who's asking, who's applying.
Okay, so there's not an actual individual officer, it's just an email address?
It's an email address.
Which potentially could be a number of officers?
Yeah, it's just that the principle is the asset transfer group meets every month, and it's from various services across the council, so that way we can, if any inquiries have been made, either through property or through legal or through CLD, we actually bring that together every month. So there shouldn't be any sitting there that aren't that we don't know about. But if you go in through the email address, that mailbox is monitored by Hugh's team on a daily basis. So we just don't want to put a name on the website in case they leave or they move. But the single point of contact is through that email address.
Right, so how does that work then? So the point of the single point of contact is not just for an initial inquiry about an asset transfer, it's through the whole long, complicated process, so that if there is an issue with property or an issue about potential planning or a community element, that there's just one person that they approach and discuss their issue. So it's actually during the process is when it starts to fall apart really, and people can get frustrated because they're dealing with a number of different departments. So it's how does that work then through the process?
So through your convener, the ongoing process will be run by Hugh's team, the community side of CLD. So the ongoing discussions, and we have a few at the moment where a member of, or Hugh, or a member of his team will meet with that organisation and take them through the various stages of the process, so that happens. And even if it comes in through property services or legal, we will then take up that through CLD with that organisation.
Right, okay.
And the second point, Hugh, about the gamble halls,
Yeah, but the community council's been a
the council's
local
been
entity.
been the entity to take it forward.
I think again, if any organisation, community council or anything would need to be assessed if they fit the criteria for any asset transfer. You know, so it needs to do a number of criteria that we need to go through with our legal colleagues to make sure they're fit for purpose to do a community asset transfer. So we would assess that if that was the case. I'm not really sure about where we are with community councils, and we probably need to do a wee bit more and more work on community councils and where they fit into that role.
Yeah, so I think it's probably just a general question about community councils, and I think that would be useful clarifying exactly, does that fit within the role asset transfers in general? Because I think there was a lot of confusion around that, so I think it would be useful for that clarity on community councils in general being answered, so that they're clear in case they do get a number of approaches.
Yeah, I'm looking at, through yourself, Hugh, I'm talking to you, but I'm also talking to Tony, is to take that away and get that clarity as quickly as we can.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great, thanks.
I'm going to bring Robert Moran in and then Tommy. Robert?
Hi, thanks, Jim. It's a wee bit embarrassed to bring this up, but it's a King George V building, obviously, in Port Glasgow. And it does say in the report, you know, the committee requested an anticipated additional funding will be required. Now, at this stage, it says a full report will come to the committee. Well, we're in November now, so at the end of the day, when would this report come? Because you're saying it should be completed for the day of next year. So my question to the is how will this report come? And if you get any indication how much more funding will be required, considering we're given this grant from the Regen Capital Fund for the Scottish Government, you know, which was quite a substantial sum of money. So to say we're going to need more money at this stage, I just want to bring it up because, you know, it has been highlighted in the local press, you know, it's a very important building to Port Glasgow, but at the end of the day, we have to have some sort of control of what the costs are going to be.
Right, I'm going to bring Eddie in this one. Eddie, would you like to try and bring some clarity to Robert?
Yeah, thanks, convener. Yeah, I mean, you'll appreciate when we contract with an organisation to deliver a project, we are bound by the kind of contract conditions. So projects don't always go according to plan on site, and quite often you come up against things you don't anticipate, or ground conditions such as this project have been thrown up that they've delayed the contractor. So quite clearly, the project was supposed to finish in summer this year. We're now reporting it's going to be May next year. That's a significant prolongation of the contract, and that isn't down to the contractor's performance. That's down to these things that, you know, have been thrown up as during the duration of the works. So we have to consider what payment is required to the contractor beyond that for this prolongation, covering his overheads on the site for every month extra that he's on that project, and that's where the additional cost will come. Now, clearly, it's a number of months before that project is now projected to complete. We can't say exactly how much extra funds will be required because at the moment they are only a certain percentage way through the actual work on site. So it's not unusual for us to bring updates like this to committee from time to time, saying we know there's going to be additional funding required. At this point, we can't give you a figure, but obviously there's going to be monthly prolongation costs for the contractor, and obviously that is again a commercial position that we need to be careful about in terms of how we negotiate with that contractor. So we only normally report back to committee after those negotiations have concluded and we have got a final account. So we're clearly quite away from that, but it is appropriate to let the committee know that we are going to require additional funding as and when we exhaust the funding that's currently there, and we haven't done that yet.
Okay, Eddie, thanks for that. So just for Robert, so we've got a date now of May, and we expect to be able to have that date, that there shouldn't be any more slippages from the May Day, or is that an unfair question to ask you?
It's still too early to even say that. We would certainly hope not, because that's a significant prolongation of the contract. And they're certainly through the worst of the work, and certainly out of the ground. But now it's putting everything together inside. And the project isn't a normal project; it is a pilot project. We are looking at low carbon approach to this building. It's got technology and services within it that are beyond anything that we've considered in other refurbishments. It's a retrofit, so it's unusual, and it's a lessons learned project, and we are learning those lessons through it, and it will certainly inform future projects.
Okay, fine. Robert, is that okay?
I think this is fine, Jim. I fully understand Eddie's position, and it is a difficult site, and obviously because of the age of it. But I just I'd like to be quite reassured that we're getting there. So thanks for that, Eddie.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Eddie. Can I bring in Tommy?
Thank you, convener. Losing my hands to my thunder a wee bit here. Should we have a question?
Okay, you don't need to ask a question. It's not. Right, okay.
Anyway, I had a wee look back at the various reports I've had, and there has been issues, to be fair, Eddie, the report them in with the various completion dates and the limited contingency funding left. So obviously concerns that in September we're told Q1 2024, where you just mentioned it's now moved to May 2024, and over and above the RCGF funding 1.7 million, how much have the council put into this project, Eddie?
Through you, convener, at the moment it's 100% funded from RCGF, so that there's no council funding in the current phase. Now, just to clarify, the previous phase that we undertook, which addressed getting the building to a kind of wind and water type stage and addressing the immediate fabric repairs, that was somewhere in the region of 1 to 1.5 million. So the first phase was the council funded element, but this current phase is 100% RCGF funded. But should obviously we need further funding, that'll be something we would need to look to council funds potentially to obviously augment the RCGF funds.
Yeah, so we're currently around about 3.2, and you can't give us an indication of a final total as yet, is that correct?
That's correct. No, we would never provide an indication at this stage of a contract. It can actually take up to 3 months plus post completion, and that's what the industry standard is. If you always aim to agree a final account with a contractor within 3 months of practical completion, but clearly that is sometimes quite difficult to achieve if the contract has been a difficult one as well.
Yeah, and I assume that the council would have to pick up the bill for any additional funding. There won't be access to any other grants.
At the moment, there's no indication there might be an access to any other grants, although it's something that Hugh may be able to discuss with RCGF colleagues. But at the moment, there's no indication that there'll be additional funding. It will be council funding that will have to augment the existing funding.
Okay, thanks, Nicola.
Francesca.
Thanks, convener. I just wanted to echo Councillor Robertson's comments about the waterfront pool 4. I won't say you stole my thunder, I'm riding on that same wave of joy as yourself. So yes, as I was elected last year, that's been the question that people have been asking, and it's just great to see that it's been put in place in time. But it's not included in the report, and I think the big news about the 4 seems to be either in person or on social media about the lovely sparkly underwater lights that there are added. I'm not surprised it didn't make it into the report, but it's just to give them a special mention, since everybody seems to be really excited about them too, and thanks to everyone who's involved in making that happen. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Francesca.
I'm sure the telegraph.
Pick up the sparkling lights. Nobody else online and nobody in the room. Can we agree the recommendations?
Great.
Thank you. And can we move to agenda item number 4, which is the local and national updates? And I'll ask Tony to introduce the paper. Tony.
So this report provides committee with developments in relation to the communities part of the committee. I don't intend to go through all of them, but some of the things worth highlighting, I suppose, is the 16 days of activism, gender-based violence, which runs from the 25th of November to the 10th of December. I've just provided details of some of the activity that's going on in relation to that. Also, just to highlight the young person's health and wellbeing, substance use officers are now in post, and there's a programme of work being developed for them. There's also a change to the school letting arrangements at 3.6, and that's in response to a previous saving taken by the council in relation to school lets that we've had to rationalise the opportunities for lets. Haven't turned anyone away. I suppose just what mentioning at this point, it just shows the prioritisation of the letting at this point. And some excellent news actually around the Cause of Excellence Awards that the council won a gold award in relation to its work in terms of examining its historic links to slavery. I think there's going to be hopefully a video presentation later on in that. And also the library service recognised as well. And you may have seen in the press that that was highly commended by the Scottish Library Information Council. So that's an update on that section because that's just been announced in relation to its work around health improvement. A link to the Culture Collective evaluation. We had some further and detailed information at that last meeting. And I suppose just to note as well, the emergency powers report was taken to ensure that pupils who are entitled to free school meals received a payment, or the families received a payment in lieu of the school meals whenever there was industrial action in the schools, and also that the corporate director now has delegated authority if there are more days of industrial action that we can make those payments to those families. So happy to take any questions on that.
Thank you, Tony, on that. Just to say, the reason why the presentations in the education part of the meeting is we wanted to have as many people here as possible from the education committee. So that's why it's not here now, and we're keeping it to the first item of the education. So we could have a church parent rep if we had one, and I know Paula's trying to put in apologies, but I knew that as well. I'll open up to questions. I've got Francesca first. Francesca.
Thanks very much, Kevin. More of a comment, really just a thanks, message of thanks to everyone who's involved in the 16 days of activism activity. That's a really strong foundation of activity across Inverclyde to mark those 16 days, and I think that should only have a positive response within the community when we've got this very, very stubborn problem that seems difficult to shift of gender-based violence. So it's great to see that. I'm just noting the service on Sunday 26th of November at 2 PM to various church in Greenock that I know from discussions that we've had at the Women's Forum and beyond that there's a really warm, open welcome extended to everyone to attend that. So it'd be great to get people along to that. It should be a really kind of thoughtful, important event. So really good to see that marked in this report.
Can I bring James in, Councillor Daisley, first online? James.
Thanks, convener. Just a question around page 17, paragraph 3.4, which is young persons' health and wellbeing substance use officers. Given there's been quite a bit of focus on substances and vaping as well in recent weeks and months in the council chambers. I would be interested to understand if the content that's going to be delivered to pupils, if it's appropriate for us to be briefed on that before it's briefed to the pupils, just to see what's involved and what it's all about. Is that something that can be done? Is it okay for us to see that? Thanks.
I'm going to bring Ruth in here as corporate director. Ruth, what's your view?
Yeah, there's no harm in you seeing the type of content we will be sharing, but it will be part of the agreed health and wellbeing curriculum. So yes, we're happy to share that. But to be clear, it wouldn't be before the pupils receive it. It would be alongside the pupils receiving it.
James, is that okay?
Yeah, that's great. I think it's just more that it's a very relevant topic and quite important. So I think it would be good to see it. So thanks for that.
Okay. I'm going to bring Lynn in and then Natasha. Lynn.
Yeah, thanks. So just under the 16 days of activism, I think Francesca was being very modest there, mentioning the service. So it's just a thanks to Francesca about getting that organised and dealing with that, because I think it will be quite a nice opportunity for folk to come together, male and female, to support that cause. So thanks to her for arranging that. Just under 3.4 as well, about the young person's health and wellbeing. It's just, has there been any consideration to look at our primary sevens in this campaign? I'm just conscious that some of, you know, the sessions that our S1s have could be further on in the year, and potentially our S7s are in that transition, are moving into high school and are subjected to especially vaping or some of these other risky behaviours before the kind of course is delivered. So it was just to look at maybe a condensed version, a watered down version, just a mention on the transition about, you know, what they might be exposed to when they move to sit. Not to put fear into them, but we're being realistic to know that they might be exposed to that before the training happens to our S1s. And just our last point is under the anti-poverty fund for the school closures. So absolutely support you know, that money being allocated in coming out of the anti-poverty fund. But does that not get offset against the savings in terms of salaries? So I'm just wondering why, you know, just all that money coming out of the anti-poverty fund when there's really like a salary saving to make sure that that pot stays intact.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. I think that's definitely two questions to the corporate director.
Hopefully answer both of them. So the first one is the substance use officers are on top of the core curriculum that will be looking at health and wellbeing. So we would be expecting schools in P7 to be dealing with alcohol, smoking at an age appropriate level. I suppose because they are additional to what we'll be expecting, we've got to keep it tight, and it's a limited amount of money. So going into the secondaries is probably the most pragmatic way of doing it. But that doesn't mean the P7s are not getting anything. They're also getting, they will be getting the normal health and wellbeing curriculum, as will the S1 to S6s. This is in addition to that. It'll probably be more of a bespoke service rather than the core health and wellbeing experiences and outcomes. Hopefully that answers the question. So they'll be looking at that for transition.
And the second question is, why can we not take the money off the teachers' pay first before we put it back into the centre rather than taking off the anti-poverty fund?
So I suppose, you know, there's different ways, there's always different ways of looking at that. So basically the money comes into the centre and then it's unexpected money, and yes, there's a saving in salaries. The anti-poverty funding was just the best place for it to sit. So because it literally is doing the same topic as anti-poverty, but rest assured we will put any savings from salaries to good use.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Can I bring Natasha in? Natasha?
Thanks, convener. Oh, sorry. I think somebody else was talking there.
Right, Natasha, you first.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, under 3.4, I agree with Councillor Quinn's thinking there about P7s. I think that having access to substance use officers is a vital thing that we've got, and we need to do everything we can to reduce drug taking, reduce vaping, and the earlier we do it with our young people and children, the better, in my opinion. So well done on getting those people into post, but hopefully once we see it in action, we'll start to see a decrease in risky behaviours around drugs and vaping. Secondly, I just wanted to say well done for the Cause of Excellence Award for all the work that went on with the historic links to slavery and for the libraries for being shortlisted. Our library services consistently get shortlisted. And then finally, my last comment and my question is on 3.9, the Inverclyde Culture Collective. Lots of good work there, lots of partners and lots of projects have been done, which is great. And I know that we in Inverclyde are in a very unique situation with the way that this has been done. And it says here that whilst this one's came to an end, that we're looking for future opportunities. When will we next as a committee get an update on what is next for culture within Inverclyde in this kind of realm?
Thanks, Natasha. It's the report on the conflict collection, I suppose, is the key question from Natasha this time.
Yeah, it is, Convener. Thank you.
So the Culture Collective technically feeds into the Alliance because it's made up of different partners. I suppose what the key aspect of it is the partnerships that have been developed through the Culture Collective, and the idea is to continue those partnerships to keep applying funding where it exists. But we must remember that Creative Scotland have, alongside others, a limited pot, and the most recent pot is coming to an end. If there are any other joint collective bids put in, then and we have an officer to look at that. Then if you watch the Alliance papers, and what I'll try and do is pick that up through the Alliance updates and bring it into this part of the committee for an update.
Okay, Natasha.
Yep, that's great. Thank you, Ruth.
David, would you want to come in? Did you have a question? No. Do we have any other questions in the room? And nothing online. Can we agree the paper?
Okay.
Thank you. Can we go to the next agenda item, which is the management rules for museum and libraries? Sarah, can you start us on this one? Sarah,
Thank you, Convener.
This is your big opportunity. Go for it.
Thank you, Convener. Yeah,
It's
this
Emma.
report...
Sorry, it's Emma.
Sorry,
Emma,
yes.
sorry, I'm calling
It's
you the wrong
myself.
name.
No, that's okay. Yeah, this report relates to management rules for museums and libraries and the proposed rules for March 2024. So councils are authorised to make management rules in relation to the use of their premises in terms of the Civic Government Scotland Act, and the council has previously made management rules for libraries and museums in March 2014. However, in terms of the legislation, management rules only last for a period of 10 years and then they expire. So accordingly, the service have developed the new rules which are attached to this report to come into force from March 2024 onwards. And further, in terms of the legislation, before any management rules can be made by the council, statutory public consultation has to be carried out, and that gives the public a period of 1 month to respond to the rules before they can be made by the council. So therefore, the recommendations of this report are for the committee to approve the draft rules as attached to the report and to authorise legal services to carry out the public consultation. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Emma. I'll open up to questions. I've got Lynn. Lynn?
Yeah, sorry, I sound like a bit of a saddle, but I actually read every detail. So I think the new museum policy or rules doesn't include smoking or vaping, so that section has been omitted, I think. So what I was checking to see if smoking had been updated to include vaping. So that's been changed in the library policy, but in the new museum one, there is no mention of smoking or vaping. I think in the old one it was a U and we kind of stopped at S. So you might just want to check. I know I sound like that as if I've got my red pen.
I can take a look at that. No, I can take a look at the museum rules and speak to the service about that, and we can make sure we've got something in covering smoking and vaping.
Okay, thanks, Emma. Any other questions? No, nothing online. Can we agree the paper? Thank you. Can we move to the next agenda item, which is on privileged passes? Tony, you're going to take us with us? Can you find your page?
Sorry, that previous item was longer than I thought. I was trying to get the page there. Okay, thanks very much. This report is asking for the Education Communities Committee to withdraw the fee for privilege passes from October 2023. The reason for which is the Public Services Vehicles Accessibility Regulations, which were introduced actually in 2000, but it's taken quite a while to reach because there's no provision for school transport in it. These are recent developments, and it means that essentially that if an operator is going to charge for a fare when their bus essentially needs to have these specific exemptions or be adapted for people with disabilities. So essentially, from a school transport perspective, if we're charging for a privilege pass, which we do at the moment for £7.25, we would need to ensure that that the bus that we're charging the privilege pass for is compliant, and not all buses are, and not all operators have this licence, and we can't compel them to have this licence either. So what we have in this case is that in terms of St Columba's, the routes that St Columba's are using do have this specific licence, so we can maintain the charge for the subsidised bus for there. But for all the other privilege passes, there are operators that don't have these licences, which means we would either have to go back out to tender, which would result in probably an increased cost. But as you can see, there aren't many privilege passes given out, so it's probably more pragmatic to remove the charge for privilege passes for our schools, in line with a lot of other authorities. To be honest, you can see there, in terms of the income, not a lot of income is brought in. So we should have sent out the privilege pass in October this year, but because of this, we're waiting for committee to approve the removal fees for privilege passes, and then we will grant them obviously through the ballot if people have applied already. And next year, and certainly when we come to looking at new tenders, we will look at PSVAR. But as I said before, we can't compel our operators to have this. So that's essentially, hopefully it's clear. It's quite difficult here. Certainly difficult for me to get my head around. But certainly hoping that the committee agrees to remove the charge for privilege passes from the list.
So in summary, it's going to cost us more to get them EDA compliant than they were getting in the past.
Thanks, Community. I have no issue with this at all. I think it's the right thing to do. It's a pragmatic move. Just a question in terms of next year. What does this do to the actual people applying for passes if they're not having to pay for them? Does it change the process? Does it change the desirability of a privilege pass? Does it do anything? Do we envisage this bringing a whole new world order in the world of privilege passes?
Okay, through you, convener. Yes, we will still ballot next year, and obviously it will involve people who maybe were previously put off applying for a privilege pass because there was a cost. So we anticipate there will be an increased demand for privilege passes. Obviously, it depends on how many seats are available. So we may be in a position next year where all the buses are completely aligned to how many pupils we have, and we may have fewer places, or the buses might be bigger than there might be more. So it's quite difficult to see from year to year, but certainly the ballot will be open to everybody, and we will choose by ballot as we do just now, except there'll be no charge attached to it.
Thanks.
And we're fortunate enough to have on the committee the vice chair of the SPT, and I can see he's going to stand up. So, Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, Tony. At what stage do we intend to stop the privileged bus situation for St Columba's? Has there a date been set for that?
I can see our corporate director is itching to answer this question. Ruth.
Through you, convener. So we don't currently.
I'm itching to hear the answer.
So we don't currently have a privileged bus application for St Columba's. We currently have a subsidised bus application, and that was agreed through committee because of the particular geographical features of the bus service going to St Columba's, and the fact there were no other provision. That will of course be under consideration as we take forward any budgeting as we go forward, and all the transport and other issues that you would expect to see in our budget considerations. But there is no date being set. It is not a privilege. It's something that has been agreed by committee, and it's a subsidised bus for St Columba's.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Just a supplementary. This is the only school that I know in the west of Scotland where you get subsidised bus like this. all other schools and all the other councils have rules, 1 mile, 2 mile, 1.5 miles, 3 miles, etc. I think this has gone on far too long, and it should come back to committee again for committee to update their decision. Thank you, convener.
Thank you, David. I suppose that's a statement that you and your group can obviously take that through the budget working group as a proposal. Tommy first.
Thank you, convener. I know the director's response there. I feel a comprehensive response, and if and when this does come back to me, I'll be supporting the status quo unreservedly. Thank you.
Linda, you wishing to come in?
Sometimes it's best just to say nothing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks for that. Can we move to the next agenda item, which is agenda item number 7? And I'm going to ask Hugh, this is on our summer holiday provision. Hugh.
Yeah, thanks, convener, for yourself. This is just an update on the services that we managed to operate over the summer. Within the report, there's information on affordable childcare in UART Primary School, summer play schemes run by Invercargill Leisure, our own core youth work provision, active schools provision, Pictures in the Park, Home Link Transition Programme, and the Duke of Edinburgh Award. Just going to give some highlights of some of the stuff that happened over the summer. Obviously, as you know, we're being funded under 4.1 from Scottish Government under the new affordable childcare scheme, and we're continuing to work with them. 4.2 police schemes run by Invercargill Leisure. We had an increase in numbers this year. It was usually averaging of 6,000 6,000 footfall, and this time is up to 8,000 going forward. Again, we've seen an increase in all facilities moving forward, including our youth work and our active schools and our Duke of Edinburgh young people engaging over the summer. I'm happy to take any questions on the report.
Thank you, Hugh. I'm looking at questions. Francesca first. Francesca first.
Thanks very much, convener, and thanks very much, Hugh, for that report. I think summer holidays seems a wee while ago now, but we know as a council we always put loads of services in place for the school year, really reflecting on anti-poverty measures. And it's great to see that the summer holiday is no different, that we're adding value there. There's such a wide and diverse range of activities and services, and it's great to see that detail about making sure that the young people in more disadvantaged areas have got chances to get along to activities as well, that we're looking at that, we're recording it, and meaning that everyone has a chance to go back to school with a story to tell about what they've been up to over the summer, because that's exactly what we want. I think I'm just thinking with some of the funding that you potentially touched on there, Hugh, and we know we've had the really ORA funding in the past, we've had different pots, and with council budgets being what they are, it feels sometimes looking at this that you're managing almost to magic a summer holiday experience out of a hat. And I'm just thinking with these sort of short-term bursts of funding, they do mean that the council officers really quickly rise to the occasion and respond to create products that are really meaningful to young people and may or may not be sustainable. I'm just thinking about how that works in practice. I don't know if that's anything that can be answered today, but I'm just thinking it must often feel that way to the staff and officers who are putting all these great activities in place. Thanks, Regina.
Hugh, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I think it is a challenging time, obviously, with core budgets and also external budgets. And obviously, the external budgets help subsidise the work that we're trying to do, work with young people over the summer. But it is a challenge at times, and sometimes it is about short-term funding and just coming in a couple of weeks before, you know. But we've also always got a plan in place to try and put a programme, and we just need to work to the budget we've got. But if extra comes in, then we try to enhance that. That's the key thing that we try to do.
Thanks, thank you.
Kirsten.
Thanks, convener. Just about section 4.1, it's saying that parents were invited to apply for the out of school childcare before the holiday started, and how many children actually received it, but it doesn't give us a figure on how many parents actually applied for it. I was just wondering if you've got that. Yeah,
through this project, there's a very tight criteria. So what I don't think there was any young person missing that wanted to attend going to this summer programme this year. But as we look forward, because most of the young people who are probably going to the after school care programme in Upper Port Glasgow, and we get to know them and the families. But I think there was a couple, nobody missed out on the project, but going forward we will be looking at that because the criteria could change going forward, but we are aware of that, but nobody missed out from anybody who applied for it.
Great, thank you, Hugh.
I'm going to bring Natasha in online and then I'll come back to Elizabeth. We're going to Robert again. Natasha.
Thanks, Jim. Francesca literally covered all that I was going to say and ask. I was going to outline about the budget pressures and how it keeps getting harder and harder, and that I want to just recognise and express extreme gratitude to our partners and to our staff within the council who are still delivering these things, even when resourcing gets tighter and tighter, whether that be financial or people power. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for continuing to ensure that our young people and our children do have things to do and that our families can engage with their kids in some of these as well. So I just want to say thank you, and I won't ask the question that Francesca's already asked.
No problem, Natasha, thanks. Elizabeth?
Thanks very much, Kemina. So it's really useful looking at the report and reflecting on the things that have happened over the summer, and they're absolutely not inconsiderable, and I think we're all really grateful for the level of support that's been made available within the system for families, all of which I wouldn't want to detract from at all. However, looking at the play schemes and just even looking at where the play schemes were situated this year, I'm wondering if there is scope to continue to look at it as we plan and really take the opportunity to plan for next year. I'm just aware, like, for example, South West area of Inverclyde, there really wasn't very much coverage there at all. And we're obviously balancing. See, I've done it again. Tommy had a question and he's not going to have a question now because I've just stolen his thunder as well. So I'm just wondering, as we continue to really try and do our best with the resources we've got for our families, if this is something that we can look at, there's probably still gaps. We're obviously balancing the kind of anti-poverty side of some provision with the supporting people who are working families and all that kind of thing. All these different things we're trying to balance out, and I'm just wondering if we can take the opportunity when it's not the summer, now in this period leading up to next year, to continue to make sure that we're doing the best with the resources that we have, knowing that they are limited.
Hugh, do you wish to comment on that first?
Yeah, for yourself, yeah, we are very aware of that, and we are looking at how do we make sure that we're covering the geographic area of Inverclyde, and that is also with some of the external funding we might receive next year from government. But we're also very conscious that we need to look at the numbers in certain areas, and I've got again a meeting with Inverclyde Leisure to look at that if it goes forward that we're doing play schemes. But it's a key point that we noticed ourselves, and we will look at it in depth and come back with a report before we announce the places for next year.
Okay, thanks, Hugh. I'm going to bring Robert in before going to Tommy and give Tommy time to reflect. Robert?
Thanks, Jim. Jim, it's on the 4.5, the pictures of the park. Last year I was doing it with the grandchildren, fantastic. This year, too, I have to say it was a wee bit rough, to say the least, with the weather conditions, and I thought Hugh and his team were tied to the grass or pinned down so they didn't get blown away. But my question is the venue, and I was thinking to myself, is there a more appropriate venue? And I'm just thinking off the top of my head that we can have that Ravenscraig Stadium where we can have everyone sitting in the stand area and the film out in the park. I think it'd be a far better venue for. I think it's a great initiative. I just think that'd be a more appropriate venue going forward. Hugh,
do you want to comment?
Yeah, for yourself, convener. We always think that we're going to get sunshine in the summer, and that's why we wanted to do it in the parks. We never get summer. We always get one it's rainy, but we have discussed that in our evaluation, Councillor, about what is next for us if we manage to receive more money to do it next year. And I think that's something that's Ravenscraig is something that we've discussed in length about maybe having that as a backup. A couple of wee issue for us where that is in the geographic area about getting there and things like that, but certainly it's there for consideration.
Okay, Robert.
Aye, that's fine. Thank you, Hugh.
Tommy?
Yeah. Thanks, convener. I think very good report, and it certainly conveys the excellent work that you and your team are doing across Inverclyde, and the school certainly commended for that. But we have been working in Glebe Road, which community service is really going from strength to strength, and that is a last amount due to the people working there, also the support from CLD, which has been very good. Now, the committee, whole committee have asked, have expressed a desire for a play scheme to run there next summer, and they have been actively fundraising to hopefully put some money towards that. Now, I understand that we got around about £57,000 grant from the Scottish Government for play schemes and other things. But I would just ask that officers engage with the committee, please, vote to look into the possibility of maybe getting a play scheme up there next summer.
I dare say Hugh's heard that, Hugh.
Yeah, for yourself, convener. Yeah, we will engage with any community facility who is willing to support putting a play scheme in their area. Again, it's about just looking at and if we get additional cost, additional funding from any sources, we'll certainly consider that.
Okay, Tom. Any other questions? Can't see anything online. Can we agree to note the paper?
Agreed.
Agenda item number 8 is really just for noting. Obviously, this has been through the grants committee, so unless anybody wants to ask a question on it, we'll just pass it. Okay? We approve the paper. Thank you. Now we're going to move into private session. Can I move into private session first of all? That's okay, and then I'm going to ask for the suspension of standing orders. But we can move into private session first and foremost. Thank you very much.
Hi, Peter, can you hear me? Are we still live streaming?
Apologies, convener, I'm having some technical difficulties here, but bear with me. You won't be shortly.
You know, there's probably thousands of people sitting.
Apologies, convener, that was painfully slow, but we have now stopped streaming.